Hello everybody, my name's Elliot Waters and welcome to the Dysregulated podcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, it is greatly appreciated. Now today I wasn't going to do a podcast, but sometimes life throws up subject matter that you just cannot ignore. So instead of ignoring it, I'm going to go through it today. So today's been a particularly difficult day. Very, very trying, very difficult to find any sort of organic ways to bring on some positive and happy emotion. So I've sort of been stuck. Nothing that usually I would do would work. Some things I usually would do would be drive around my town centre singing some amazing tunes to nobody in particular, but with the windows down, so I'm sure the people walking past would be lucky enough to hear the sultry tones that I have at my disposal. But today that just did not work. I was also at the hospital last night because of some mental health concerns, which probably deserves an episode on its own. So I'd say there'd be a bit of a hangover effect today from that. And as I said, nothing I tried to do really worked that well. Did lots of meditation, which was good, but not quite enough to get me out of that mood. And even as I sit here now, we're not really out of it yet either. So hopefully tonight will bring some decent sleep, which would be a good change. And tomorrow is, of course, a new day. But one thing I decided to do today was go running. Now, for those who are listening who know about me, what part of my identity really was running. I've always been the runner. That guy that runs. I used to do marathons. I used to represent my state, New South Wales. Go New South Wales, go the Blues. In competitions, I did cross country on the track, you name it, I was running it. And over the years, my ability and my consistency when it comes to running has diminished a lot, especially lately. Today's run, yes, I did go today, but as you'll find out, took a lot of effort before we even got there. Today's run would have been the first one in months. And I don't really want to think exactly how long it's been, but it's been a bloody long time, which is tough because, as I said, running was a part of my identity and mental illness has shaved off this part of my identity. And it's not right, but it unfortunately is the reality. But it is up to me to try and bring it back in vogue. So just to go through how difficult it was to actually go on this run. And as you'll find out, the majority of this isn't physical at all, although I must admit I was running pretty busted. But that didn't matter because the fact that I was running at all was one hell of an achievement. So anyway, the first step of running is to actually commit to the idea of running. Now that took a long time. This is where I think the meditation probably helped. I think the meditation primed me to do something positive beyond just the breathing exercises. It got me into that frame of mind, balanced me out, and then I was able to clearly identify an activity that could help further lift me out of the deluge of hopelessness that I've been feeling today. But even the idea of running was so anxiety-provoking, unbelievably so. You know, I was laying on my bed trying to think, right, let's go running, let's do it. And this anxiety would just pin me down. And it took a very long time just to get from laying to sitting, knowing that the idea was that we were going to go for a run. Crazy. But this is so common, especially for me lately. All the runs I've done in the last 12 months, which are not many, have always been like this. So then, of course, once you're sitting on the edge of the bed, you got to figure out the process that's involved in getting ready to run. And now this is where the ADHD likes to come in. See, ADHD, and I'm going to talk more about this disorder in full in future episodes, but very quickly, ADHD is the type of disorder that doesn't see priorities. Everything is a priority. And when everything is a priority, it is very difficult to choose what step goes first, second, third, etc. until we get to our goal. So I'm sitting there thinking, right, Do I need to put shorts on? Yes, I do, but I also need to get some socks. Have I got any socks around? Which at the moment, there's not many because I haven't done washing for a bit. And then it's like, well, we probably need to go running in some sort of shirt. Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be warm? We better check the weather before we go. Blah, 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 blah. All these stalling techniques. That's what ADHD does. People look at ADHD very much as a disorder of procrastination, and that's true, but often it isn't an active will to procrastinate. It just is. The process involved navigating this disorder appears like procrastination, but it's actually not. It is this overwhelming sense of what goes where, what steps do we need to take first, second, third, fourth. And often I'll be sitting on the edge of the bed an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours trying to figure out if I should eat first, brush my teeth, or get some water. I'm not joking, that happens a lot. Anyway, moving on. So we got the clothes on, then I had to rummage around for the shoes, which I eventually found. And just looking at the running shoes made me feel guilty because I was like, you pair of shoes have been neglected. How dare I? So all of a sudden, I'm feeling sadness for a pair of shoes. Although, of course, the shoes are metaphorical, symbolic. It represents, in my world, in my view, the lost component of the former Elliot and his identity. And it was quite saddening. It was. And it might sound a bit overdramatic, but that's exactly how it felt to me. Anyway, then even putting on the shoes was difficult because they were too tight. And one of the loops come out of the little loophole, and my first thought was, it is all too difficult, just chuck them off, go back to bed. And I was so close to doing it, but thankfully I did not do that. Which again, I think the meditation has a lot to do with that because I was in a much more balanced frame of mind, or at least balanced for me. So I put the shoes on, and I could feel they were a bit stiff because they hadn't been worn for a while. And I just got this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I was just like, oh, God, what are we doing? Then, of course, had to walk to the car in the shoes that were feeling rigid and unworn. And that in itself was a grieving period of sorts of the former me. And this is exactly what I was thinking, by the way. This is the thoughts that goes into a lot of the things that I do, which is why I don't do much in general. So we get to the car, turn the car on. Everything's a drama, of course. Get the wrong key out. Yeah, and there's just all these little signs that I'm trying to grab onto as reasons not to do this exercise. So again, I've spoken about how depression likes to grab the wheel and stop you from doing things. Well, for me, all of these different mental illnesses like to grab the wheel and steer me in a direction that is not helpful at all. But thankfully today I was able to push through. So I drove to my usual running sort of spot where I go at the moment, which is Nobby's Beach. For those who are acquainted, Nobby's Beach in Newcastle, beautiful place. Of course, I went running late at night because here's another one, social anxiety disorder. If I was to run during the day, my thoughts would be occupied with everybody's thinking, look at this unfit loser running by. His shorts are too short. His shoes are too rigid. He's blowing too hard. He's going slow. Let's all laugh at this guy. Again, logically, it sounds stupid, but in reality, that is exactly how it feels to me. So I went running at night to try and avoid people. And for the most part, I did well, except there was one car full of P-platers, young people, that just had to run out, run, Forrest, run. And to be honest with you, I did. I chuckled because it was such a lame call to begin with. And it was also something I used to do when I was that age. So I was like, see, Elliot, you know all those dumb things you used to do? Well, guess what? They are dumb. Be thankful you don't do them anymore. Anyway, little chuckle, and I did my run, which was great. You know, I wasn't doing it for... There were no two ways about it. I didn't run well. I didn't run far. I didn't run fast. But it didn't matter. Did I feel good doing it? No, not particularly. Not physically anyway. But this run wasn't about physical achievement. This was about mental achievement. And at this point of the game, That is the game. It's all about pushing out of that mental comfort zone. Now, for me, there's many things that fit the bill for this, but for me, running is one of them because there's a lot tied up in the act of running. As I've said before, it was part of my identity, for God's sake. So, it's a big, big thing, an activity for me to do for a lot of reasons. But everyone's got those things that are different for each other. That's why we're so individual, and that's why it's great, but that's why it's also important that you as the listener finds out what that is for you, so then every day you can push yourself out of that comfort zone. It is so, so important. So I finished that run and the endorphins weren't quite kicking in like I would have liked. I felt pretty terrible, but I tell you what, the dopamine was rushing. So if you don't know what the dopamine is, the dopamine isn't Russian. The dopamine has no nationality. The dopamine or the dopaminergic pathway is the reward center of the brain. So if you do something good and it's in line with your vision and your process, again, we've all got a different vision and process, but if you do something that goes along the way to fulfilling those objectives that you set for yourself, you get a rush of dopamine. So this run was not about lung power or leg power. It was all about mind power. And my reward was that dopamine rush. And my reward has pushed me to make this podcast today. I wasn't planning on doing one today, but here I am because I'm on a bit of a high, because I know that out of such a terrible day that today has been, and yesterday as well, which I'm sure I'll talk more about down the track because there's some lessons there, very recent, timely lessons that I learnt. I will talk more about that down the track, but the fact that I'm doing the episode today is because my brain is telling me, you know what, Elliot, you didn't feel like doing that, and we probably could have understood if you didn't, but you know what, you rose above those negative thoughts, those negative emotions, and you did it anyway. And I'll tell you what, you deserve this. Here's some dopamine. Okay, so at the end of all that, there is a bit of a lesson. Some of the activities that we do may appear, physically orientated or academically or whatever, but really it's all about doing things which push ourselves, get out of that comfort zone, learn new skills, do things which are in line with our overall objectives, goals, visions. That's the stuff that sets the dopamine receptors off, and that's what we're looking for and will protect us against these ideas of mental illnesses, of which there are many, and of which I have many as well, because that's the thing. The dopamine hit nullified some social anxiety, it nullified some generalized anxiety, it's nullified some depression, it's nullified a bit of the BPD that's gnawing at me constantly. It's nullified some of this depressive episode I'm in because of bipolar. It is a very robust and reliable chemical, and there are some great ways that we can tap into it. And down the track, I'm going to go through some of the best ways which have helped me. All right, thank you very much. A little quick one today. As I said, I wasn't planning on doing one, but you got to take these moments when you can. So remember, get out of that comfort zone and allow yourself the rewards that come with it. Thank you for listening. See you guys. Have a good one.